You withheld information. That's the same as lying.
Hi, you guys. My name is Gail Gramlich, and this is Go See Gail. It was 2 weeks ago that Fauci was exposed for being a liar and covering up a lot of information that the American people should have known about. He manipulated this virus. He knew it was deadly. He did the gain of function research. He said it came from bats. He said it came from nature. We all knew that it didn't. We all knew instinctively that it didn't, but we were manipulated to follow the science. And they had all these key words that they kept saying over and over and over in the media, and the media should be held accountable as well. If you really think about it, Trump had to go through all these court dates for like having sex with a porn star, paying her off or whatever. And it wasn't even him who paid her off. It was his lawyer. 15 million people didn't die from that. 15 million people died from this COVID thing. We need to keep the story in the limelight, don't you think? We can't sweep this under the carpet like we do with so many other things. In this video, we're going to highlight the hypocrisy of the left, the media's involvement, diary entries. Megyn Kelly and her buddy Victor are going to go over some stuff. Rand Paul's going to go over some stuff. Stephen A. Smith is going to go over some stuff. And it's just going to be a nice, lovely video for you guys to enjoy. And at the very end, Emily Compagno has the best rant that I saw. Of all the rants and all the people that talked about this, Emily Compagno had the best rant. So we'll save that for the end because she's beautiful and amazing. My name is Gail Gramlich, and again, this is Go See Gail. Okay, let's get to work. Oh yeah, and we're going to show what a toolbox this guy was for keeping all of his secrets and lies on his laptop, which kind of reminds me of Biden's son who did that, and that exposed how Biden was a total crook. I don't know. I guess we all put a lot of stuff on our laptops, but if we're innocent, we have nothing to hide, right? Nothing to hide, right? That's what he says.
We think COVID-19 started out going human to human so quickly is because it was modified in the lab. It was pre-adapted to go human to human. And they do this interestingly with mice that have human lungs. I know that sounds kind of science fiction, but they've created mice that are basically human. When the virus looks at the lung cells, they are human. And they just culture this thing over and over. It's called serial passage until they get a virus that can infect humans. And it's a terrible thing. And Fauci knew all along what they were doing. In his private notes, he says, we suspect they might have manipulated because we know they do gain of function research. He says this in private, but then in public he says, it came from nature, and that if you think otherwise, you're a conspiracy theorist. So I wish he had answered the questions.
Did you see Anthony Fauci? Remember him? Remember Anthony Fauci? Who was overseeing the National Institute of Health? Remember that man? Remember the man that was basically the face of the nation when it came to the coronavirus pandemic that took place in this country in 2020, 2021? Remember that? That man. He was on Capitol Hill yesterday. And the story is that the man took the fifth. Exercised his Fifth Amendment privileges 111 times. 111 times. As Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. It was a bad look, ladies and gentlemen. It was a bad look.
I am very happy to testify before any Congressional Oversight Committee. I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable. But I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully because we have nothing to hide at all.
In the red folder on your table is a copy of Section 192 of Title II of the U.S. Code. Your counsel has been provided a copy as well. That section makes it a crime for a witness under subpoena to refuse to answer any questions pertinent to the question under inquiry. Do you have that in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Let the record record that the witness has refused to answer whether there's a folder in front of him based on his Fifth Amendment right.
I really like Stephen A. Smith a lot. He is a straight shooter most of the time, but sometimes he can flip-flop. Even though I like this clip and I like what he has to say, I don't like that Stephen A. Smith can be a flip-flopper. Today, I'm on the flip side. I'm on Stephen A. Smith's flip side, the good side. We're going to take a look at his clip where he talks about what happened with Fauci last week.
I found myself vacillating back and forth between two kinds of emotions.
Like you always do.
I found myself saying, let's not try to politicize this, because I saw the GOP, the Republicans, really going after him, and I didn't see a peep from the Democratic Party, which I will get into a little bit later.
Yeah, where are the Democrats on this? Because I've been piping up on, Facebook. That's my old lady place where I rip in. And the reason why I rip in is because during 2020, I would post all of the riots and all of the people protesting in the streets, but people couldn't go to church and we couldn't go to work for so many reasons. COVID really messed up my life. I had a cool job I really liked. A personal note, my brother always did well if he was working. If he was working, he would do well. But you pay him to stay home, he's going to get into trouble. And he did, and he's no longer with us. That's the short story. The vaccines, my mom and I disagree about this because she's on one side and I'm on the other. I don't think the vaccines were good for my father's health. He's no longer with us. And there are plenty of other people that I know that are no longer with us. My sister got the vaccines and then she got lumps all over her breasts. I got one Johnson & Johnson to shut up my employer. I guess I'm fine. I don't know what the repercussions of me doing the Johnson & Johnson are yet, but I was forced to do it. My body, my choice doesn't seem to be a choice. Now that we're finding out what we're finding out about the vaccine, I'm even more angry than I was in 2020.
111 times this man exercised his Fifth Amendment rights. And keep in mind, this is the same man that received a presidential pardon from President Joe Biden for any actions that took place starting in January of 2014 to January of 2025, which means that he had, in a lot of people's eyes, no fear of federal prosecution. Now, that's not to say that there's no fear at all, because that doesn't protect you from the states, which the state of Florida, led by Ron DeSantis, is already conducting its own investigation. And other states are going to come down the pike. But make no mistake about it, we should have heard something, and we didn't.
Nope.
And as a result, this story is not going away. You can bet the house on that.
Yep.
Not after what we saw yesterday.
I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So, it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable. But I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully, because we have nothing to hide at all.
Yet that's the same man that says, I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment rights more than about 111 times. Invoke the Fifth Amendment 111 times. Republicans say the diary directly contradicts Fauci's denial. The diary also revealed a previously undisclosed medical episode. Fauci received his second Moderna vaccination on January 19th, 2021. Yet, approximately 5 months later, after experiencing sudden chest pains, he had a CT scan. Doctors initially feared lung cancer. Further examination reportedly identified a pulmonary infarction, damage to the lung tissue generally associated with interrupted blood flow. So here's what Republicans wanted to know. Was the episode investigated as a possible vaccine-related event? Was it reported through the government's vaccine safety system? Did Fauci discuss it with NIH officials? And why did the public learn about it only through his diary, but not himself?
That's it right there.
While he was telling everybody else to take the vaccine.
He's telling everybody else to take the vaccine, and in his diary, he's talking about the issues that he's having caused by the vaccine.
And to take the booster shots. Emails and federal records previously denied deleting official records. That is Fauci. And all the while this was happening yesterday, we only saw Republicans getting at Dr. Fauci. The Democrats, none but crickets. When you talk about Democratic officials and how them and their allies made Fauci practically untouchable, are we going to deny that was true? Are we going to deny that was true? Because I'm here to tell you, I'll be damned if it wasn't.
There was so much suppressed information and so much control when it came to COVID. It really, really messed up the world. Davis Hanson, he would want to seek the truth and he would want to tell the American people the truth, and they kept him from writing facts.
And then Birx she was trying to explain, and then Fauci, remember, was bragging that he almost sounds like he's seduced Trump. He's got Trump over. I've now got a very strange relationship and I'm working on Trump. And you could see they were blackening these three people who were proven correct. And by the way, they've never, in the case of Scott, the Stanford faculty censored him, and then a few months ago, they've embarrassed people, said, let's uncensor him, and they wouldn't do it. They still censored him. They're still angry at him. And I wrote 3 columns on his defense, and I was told not to write them anymore, and I had all these faculty members attacking me. I had the Stanford Alumni Association president call me or write me and say, you better stop it, we have too many complaints about you. And all I was doing is saying, why don't you let these people's views be aired honestly and evaluated on the science rather than demonize them? He was even opposed, Megyn, to the travel ban from China at the time when the Chinese government had banned all travel from Wuhan anywhere in China, and they were sending thousands of people to Milan, JFK, SFO, LAX. And Fauci and Trump wanted to stop that immediately from all travel, and he was against that because that would suggest that there was a lab origin in Wuhan. And he was convinced that the pangolin bat theory would exonerate him and cover his footprint.
And then they would also, because Trump would say it's a China virus, it's a China virus. They used that to make Trump look like the bad guy, but it was a China virus, and it was dangerous, and it was spreading, and we should have had a travel ban so that we didn't have it spread over here. So he was right.
This is all connected because his vanity prevented him from being able to tell the truth.
Absolutely.
About how COVID got started or how we could best fight it. He would only recommend what would make him look good or look right.
Exactly.
Irrespective of whether it was what was right for the country. That's my takeaway in having read all of this now. It shows just his vanity running amok and him protective of it at every turn. I'm just going to give a couple more examples here. March 22nd, 2020. So 3/22/20 was the date. Cases continued to soar, 30,000 in the USA with 400 deaths. And here's what he writes. Press is going wild with me. Front page in Washington Post yesterday and op-ed by Maureen Dowd in New York Times today about me. Profile by Peter Nichols on me in The Atlantic. He tracked the body count and his press clippings on the same pages. That's what his diary entries released by Rand Paul point out. The body count and his press clippings on the same pages. It's almost as if like the worse it got, the more important he got, and he enjoyed that. You mentioned Dr. Birx. This is from April of 2020, the next month after the ones I just read. The president called her into the Oval and started yelling at her, saying, you and Fauci have destroyed the country and the economy. I should never, ever have listened to you. You have completely destroyed us. He kept saying this over and over again and was yelling at her. I encouraged her that we are okay. And at the end of the day, she and I will be loved by the people we care about. She was relieved and after wrote me a text sincerely thanking me. He's not talking about Mrs. Fauci there, Victor. He's talking about Jake Tepper and Maureen Dowd.
Yes, he is.
And the folks who write at The Atlantic and the lefties who are allegedly stopping him on the street to call him a hero, and definitely not Jay Bhattacharya, Sunetra Gupta, who is at Oxford, and Martin Kulldorff at Harvard, whom he refers to as the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges 1 week prior to them coming out with the Great Barrington Declaration, which he clearly knew was on its way. So there he is at every turn. We will be loved by the people who matter to us. F the president, F the people. We need to manage the press, and we need to manage lefties who clearly are on our side because they're stopping me on the street, calling me a hero.
I've been watching Rand Paul on this particular topic for years. So it's very nice to finally have it really come out for all Americans to see whether they want to look at it or not. And I do believe Democrats are not looking at it, not just the ones in Congress, but Democrats in general. They're still sticking by this guy, which is insane.
He has served, Dr. Fauci we're talking about here, he's been, in a lot of people's eyes, he's a career civil servant who spent 38 years at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. They think about his years of service, and yet at the age of 85, having retired, he's on Capitol Hill, and it seemed as if you had politicians up there who wanted him in jail. And he has said that he has called your pursuit of him an unhinged obsession and that you want him in jail. Speak to that for a second and whether or not what your feelings are about him at this particular moment in time and what they have been since the pandemic took place years ago, so everybody will understand.
My questions, I think, have all been very serious. 1 million Americans died. About 15 million people died worldwide. Where did this come from? What is the evidence for the lab? What is the evidence for it coming from the wet market? So the other thing we learned recently from their investigation that I led was that in January of 2020, at the very beginning, he was told that the earliest cases did not come from the wet market. He acknowledges it, and he says that the wet market was likely a super spreader. It didn't originate there. It wasn't from the wild animals at the wet market. That was a super spreader event. So he knew this in January of 2020. But you've seen him on the media. For the last 5 years, he continues to say it came from the wet market. It came from the wet market. The wet market's the problem. We need to ban and close the wet market. Why? Now, if he were just a disinterested scientist that didn't have anything to gain, you'd say, well, he's just being honest. That's his opinion. Why condemn him? But what if you also know that he funded the lab that it came from? Would he have a self-interest in protecting himself by arguing it came from nature? So he's not a disinterested observer. He's not an objective person. He's a person who, if it came from the lab, would share responsibility. So he had every reason.
He was protecting himself, and it affected all of us because of this mad scientist who created this virus. And then it leaks out, and then instead of being honest with us about how that happened, to protect his own one self, to protect himself, he lied and he withheld information. And that's the same as lying.
You withheld information. That's the same as lying.
Reason to hide and cover up. And that's why his statements in private are diametrically opposite of his statements in public.
What about the notion that he could just say, listen, we were in pursuit of something, we made a mistake, and move forward? I mean, it would seem like,
Everybody says that. Everybody says, oh, why doesn't he just say, oh, we have made a mistake? Because he has a big fat ego. He can't say that because the media is not going to allow him to say that, because they would be at fault. They backed him up, and then they would look bad. So it's all a big fat cover-up.
I hate to put it this way, but science is not an exact science. I mean, there's a lot of imperfections that come along with it. You're not just a senator. You're a medical professional. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't notice about you. You're a medical professional. And so when you look at it for a doctor, so when you look at it from that standpoint, it's not perfect. Imperfections come along with this line of work, one could easily argue.
Right.
Why couldn't Fauci just acknowledge that and move on?
I was open yesterday and still am open to an apology and that he wants to modify his point of view. The problem is this didn't start in 2020. It really starts in at least 2010. So he funded research in the Netherlands to mutate the avian flu in 2010. This is when the controversy began. I wasn't part of this controversy. I really wasn't even aware of this until 2021. But the controversy raged in the scientific community. A group of scientists led by a scientist at MIT started the Cambridge Working Group, and they criticized the publication of this because they said, if you publish this mutation and how you did it, it'll be a roadmap for bioweapons, and every lunatic out there that has the skills to do this will now have a roadmap as to create biological weapons.
Well, I know 4 people who will not remain silent in this segment.
Real quick, I do want to say that Emily Compagno has the best clip here. She's definitely going to be in the video.
What did you learn, and what do you think, Emily?
For a party that flies planes and launches campaigns based on no kings, it's shocking to me that they worshiped this one man and based on his unilateral recommendations, threw in the towel for everything, followed him blindly. And now that's the reason that they can't bear to acknowledge that behind that curtain the whole time was a little tiny man pretending to be Oz. If the science had been correct, if his diary said, yes, all of my research shows that everything I've been saying on air is true, I stand behind it, then it would just be a shame. But now it is a sham. Now it is downright fraud and negligence and corruption and concealment of government records and obstruction of justice and so much more. And by the way, the standard for negligence, as you know, is knew or should have known. He doesn't even have to have malintent to be on the hook for that. At the state level. So what I see here is not that Operation Warp Speed was the result of a concerted effort in wartime from a country. I see that it was simply at the behest of one small, egomaniacal, sullen, hubris-infected individual that made everyone fall in line after him. And those that dared to question him in any way, shape, or form were vilified and ostracized. And in addition to those, we can never get them back, million deaths. What about the hundreds of thousands of livelihoods and businesses, the weaponization of the administrative state, the multiple felonies that were booked because people dared to keep serving others in the restaurants? I mean, and this guy dares to say in his opening statement that it was about embarrassing him or intimidating him and that he somehow had a right to privacy of his private diaries on a government computer. No, idiot. For someone that was a public servant for decades, he should know a pen he held was never his own personal pen. Everything was actually owned by the American people, and therefore we do have an interest in reading it. Thank God, in fact, he did write it on a government computer like an idiot, because now we could see that he was downright lying. And for a scientist that people held him above that standard, they said with impunity, we believe him because he should be above all politics and above all ego. Instead, we learn that he was simply lying for his own monetary and fame gain, which is the most tragic thing of all, because it is so ephemeral, it's so gross. And to see him today at the hearing, just final quick thought on this. He did not even have the integrity to look those lawmakers in the eyes when they were detailing the lives that he ruined, while he contrasted the death toll of that day on the same page with his Vanity Fair cover story, for example. He makes me sick. And I know that despite this limited pardon, there will be accountability legally for him and likely criminally moving forward.
Oh, Queen Emily Compagno. Let's just give it to her. That was amazing. Oh, idiot. I love it. That was fabulous. Okay, so she's the queen of this video. I don't want this Fauci thing to be buried. I don't want it to go away. I want to see justice. And I want people to have to answer for how he helped to destroy the country. The Democrats had a big hand in that as well. The media, the Democrats, the left, and Fauci. They really did screw up really bad. It's time for him to answer for it. And not just him, people that are connected to him. I just want to see some justice. Don't you? Who did you guys lose? Did you lose people? Did you lose a business? Did you lose your job? Did you lose your house? Did you lose your apartment? Did you lose your sanity? Did you gain some addictions? I mean, there was so much bad that went with that stupid virus and how they controlled us to rig the election as well. So that's it. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys soon. This is Go See Gail. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay, bye.
Oh, my God.
You withheld information that's the same as lying.
You wouldn't have done it. At least we would have had a choice.